All right, everyone, it's time to talk about tariffs. Today, link in the description, archived, of course. Trump's reciprocal tariff war continues. We're talking about a possible 200% tariff on Canadian dairy products, certain dairy products, as well as tariffs on other goods as well. Canada, Mexico, China, the list goes on. I wanted to point something out, and it's something the legacy media is not being honest with the public on. These countries have been tariffing our goods at an excessive rate for a very, very long time in some cases. If you have, for example, a situation where Canada tariffs US wheat at 50%, and so you say, okay, we're going to tariff Canadian wheat at 50%. Isn't that effectively equalization? Isn't that equity? I would think so now, isn't it? I thought DEI was a good thing. I do not believe in tariffs, generally speaking. I don't believe in trade protectionism. But if another country is screwing you, which these other countries are, it makes sense to do the same to them. It makes sense to equalize the trade network. In this way, you have a bunch of tariffs, but you have effectively free trade. You have a situation where there's an incentivization for domestic production to increase because the foreign market is more or less locked out. This is what Canada is doing. There was somebody commenting in the live stream the other day, a Canadian, actually talking about farmers in Canada and how, well, without the tariffs, we're not going to be able to compete. That's exactly the point. The point is that the US government represents US farmers. It doesn't represent Canadian farmers. What's in the self-interest of a nation should come first. Charity starts at home. Same with foreign aid and things like that. I think we should take care of the homeless veterans living under overpasses before we take care of people in the third world. I'm just saying that may not sound very charitable, but we've got plenty of people that are hurting in our own country. Tariffs, therefore, can equalize trade. And the hope is that then you get negotiations in which all of the tariffs are removed. So the trade protectionism is simply abolished on both ends. That's the whole goal. Well, we had a meeting and we shook hands and stuff. We both agreed to get rid of this 50% wheat tariff, this 200% dairy tariff and stuff like that. It's funny because the United States engages in this in other ways, actually. In full disclosure, the United States does this. For example, France can't really import many of its dairy products, especially cheeses, into the United States. Why? Because of the state of Wisconsin more than anything else, because that exists. Likewise, Canada tariffs U.S. dairy goods because our dairy goods are cheaper. They're more efficiently created at a larger scale, and so we could flood the market, and so their dairy providers would potentially suffer. Now, in some cases, you're looking at insular economies like banana republics and stuff like that. That's a term that refers to a state that has like one or two actual exports and literally nothing else. The term literally refers to bananas. And it's understandable if they were to tariff bananas, if that's their only export. If that's the only thing that they're producing, it would make sense. They would want a bunch of it to be absorbed domestically, and so they would tariff imports because it's the only part of their economy. For a diversified economy like Canada, Mexico, the United States, China, etc., it begins to make less sense because it's not the only the UK, France, whatever. It's not the only export. France doesn't only export wine and prostitutes, believe it or not. That's the way economics works. Trump's reciprocal tariff war continues, and it is a justified tariff war. If other countries are going to tariff a bunch of our goods, wouldn't it make sense for the US government representing the US public to then tariff those foreign goods? Oh my God, but the prices might rise marginally. Who cares? We can reabsorb that within a couple of years really easily with domestic production. There's nothing produced in Canada or Mexico that the United States is not capable of itself producing. So you create a more insular economy. Now, the idea is basically it harkens back to the Democratic Republicans. This is way back in the day when there was no Republican Party, by the way. It was just the Democratic Republicans versus federalism. And the idea of debt, the idea of entanglements, the idea of interconnected trade. It harkens back to the rise of the neocon era and the establishment of the global order, of globalism, and it basically reckons with that. I believe in the more populistic side of the sentiment, which is that global trade is great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I love to have my mangoes and papayas and stuff that can't really generally grow in the United States outside of southern Florida. It's great. Wonderful. And importing and exporting and trading goods and so forth. But it needs to be part of a generally free market system. If a country has only one export and they're really good at raising it because it's the only thing to do there, then if they involve themselves with tariffs regarding that particular product, it's understandable. But diversified economies do not need to engage in that style of behavior. Again, Canada, United States, Mexico, Argentina, China, Russia, India, certainly Pakistan. These countries have many, many different things which they import and export. There's no reason to have a trade war. That's the whole point. I love it when liberals get hot under the collar saying, oh my God, the prices will rise. Oh my God, Trump hates free trade. The asshole, these countries have been tariffing us for decades on various products. Have you seen the list of things that Canada applies a tariff to with regards to US imports? Yeah, we're totally being the bad guy. Okay, well, then you're implicating half of the world in the process with regards to trade, undeservedly. Tariffs are everywhere. Goods are tariffed all over the place. The European tariffs, for example. It happens all the time. Most of the world engages in this behavior. The United States has stubbornly decided not to do so, despite the fact that everyone else is tariffing us. Trump is simply trying to even the playing cards. He's trying to even the deck, so to speak. That's all he's doing. He's engaging in the same behavior that these other countries, which Bernie Sanders thinks we need to take ideas from on everything from gun control to medical aid. He's simply trying to equalize and use their same methodology in order to equalize the playing field. I don't see the problem with this. I don't understand why you would have an issue with us doing exactly what most of the world is already doing. Do I believe in free trade? Yes. Is the rest of the world engaging in free trade? No. And therein lies the problem. That's about all. Peace out.